There's a kind of silence that doesn't bring peace, it brings questions, and you've been drowning in them. If he's done, why does it still feel like he's here? Why does his energy still wrap around you in the quiet moments? Why does your soul whisper his name, even when your mind begs you to move on? Because deep down, you don't feel closure. You feel unfinished, unspoken, unresolved. And maybe you've tried to convince yourself it's over, that he's moved on, that you were just a phase, a chapter, a soft landing he outgrew. But every time you start to breathe again, something pulls you back. A memory, a dream, a random song that feels like a message. That's not weakness. That's not fantasy. That's a signal. Because when a man truly moves on, he disappears. Emotionally, energetically, completely. But when a man is still holding on in secret, you feel it. And you're not crazy for noticing the shift. You're not overthinking the glances, the digital breadcrumbs, the timing of his silence. This isn't about obsession. It's about intuition. The kind that knows when someone's heart is still tied to yours, even when their mouth says nothing. And in this video, we're going to decode the unspoken. We're going to uncover the hidden signs he's quietly waiting for you, even if his pride won't let him say it out loud. But before we dive in, I want you to promise yourself something. You will not watch this from insecurity. You will watch it from power, because what's coming next will change the way you see everything. Let's begin. It's the question that haunts you the most. If he still feels something, why hasn't he said anything? You replay everything, the way he looked at you, the way he used to open up in rare, vulnerable moments, the way your presence softened him. And yet now, nothing. Just silence, just distance, just the ache of absence. But here's what most women don't know. Men don't always stay away because they've stopped caring. Sometimes they stay away because caring too much scares them more than losing you. When a man falls for a woman who sees through his armor, it terrifies him, not because he doesn't want it, but because it exposes everything he's been taught to suppress. His feelings, his fears, his emotional needs. He's told to be strong, to move on, to not need anyone. So what does he do when he realizes he does need you? He waits. He waits because he doesn't want to appear weak. He waits because he doesn't know if you'll reject him. He waits because reaching out would mean admitting he still hurts. And here's the twist. Sometimes he thinks staying silent is respecting your space. Sometimes he convinces himself you're better off without him, that he'd only mess it up again, that you deserve more than what he could give when he was with you. So he pulls away, not because he's over it, but because he's over failing you. But the truth is, he's still watching. He checks in silently. He scrolls your photos. He remembers your words. He's not messaging you, but you haven't left his mind. Because the kind of woman who leaves that kind of mark, she doesn't get erased. Not by time, not by pride. He's waiting, not because he doesn't care, but because he's hoping you still do. And until he heals, or finds the courage, or sees that signal from you, he'll just keep waiting. Quietly, regretfully, longingly, while you keep wondering if you meant as much to him as he meant to you. The answer, you did. He just doesn't know how to say it. Yet, you're scrolling through your phone, living your life, maybe even trying to move on. And suddenly, he likes an old post, or he follows you again, or views every story but says nothing. It seems small, insignificant. But trust this, that wasn't random. Because when a man is truly done, he disappears. The ones who are over you, they make it clear. No traces, no mixed signals, no quiet stalking. But the ones who are not over you, they linger, in shadows, in silence, in the safest corners of your digital world, where they can still feel connected without risking rejection. That's the first hidden signal, digital breadcrumbs. He leaves little traces not to reach you, but to remind you. Remind you he's still there. Remind you that what you had still lives in him, even if pride won't let him say it out loud. But that's just the surface. The second and deeper signal is emotional mirroring. You post something vulnerable, and suddenly he posts something that feels eerily similar. You go silent, and he goes louder, or quieter. You start glowing again, and somehow he starts orbiting your energy. Why? Because when a man is not over you, he doesn't just miss your presence. He misses your impact. He misses how grounded he felt around you, how safe he was to be soft, how with you he wasn't just surviving, he was seen. And here's the truth most people miss. Men don't chase closure, they chase control. So instead of admitting he misses you, He'll test your emotional waters. He'll send out subtle signals to see if you'll respond, even indirectly. A sudden comment, a song shared in his story, a memory brought up in passing with mutual friends. And if you react, even just a little, he feels hope. But if you don't, he pretends it meant nothing. It's a game of emotional hide and seek. He hides the truth behind silence. He seeks validation through your attention. But you're not crazy for noticing it. You're not overanalyzing. You're just emotionally intelligent, picking up on what he doesn't have the courage to say out loud. Because the loudest signals often live in the quietest moments. So if you've been asking, how can I tell if he's truly not over me? Start paying attention to what he can't hide. His timing, his pattern, his silence that screams louder than words. Not every man is brave enough to say I miss you. But the one who still feels something, he'll always show it. You just have to know how to see it. There's a text he's typed 100 times, but he never hits send. Maybe it starts with hey, maybe it's longer. A paragraph, a confession, a midnight spiral of everything he should have said when he had you. But every time his thumb hovers over send, something in him freezes. Because the text he wants to send, they come from the heart. And the heart, his heart, is terrified of being ignored, misunderstood, or too late. He doesn't send I miss you, but he feels it. He doesn't say I saw your post and it wrecked me, but he stares at it longer than he should. He doesn't admit I was wrong, because to do that means confronting a version of himself he's still ashamed of. So he drafts and deletes. He types how have you been, then erases it because it sounds too casual. He tries I saw this and thought of you, but worries you'll read it like he's trying to sneak back in. He considers can we talk, but he already imagines the scene in his head, you not replying, or worse, you replying with cold indifference. So he convinces himself it's better to stay silent, but make no mistake, the texts exist. You don't feel his energy for no reason. You're not randomly on his mind. He wants to reach out. He just doesn't know if you'd welcome him, or remind him of everything he lost. And if you've ever woken up feeling like you were on his mind, if you've ever gotten that intuitive hit, that emotional nudge that he almost texted me, you're probably right, because energy doesn't lie. And when a connection runs deep, words aren't the only way people speak. Somewhere on a lonely night, in a moment of weakness or clarity or longing, he opens your thread and reads everything, not to move on, but to feel close, to feel something real again. He wants to say I still think about you. He wants to ask, do you ever miss me too? He wants to tell you he dreams of you sometimes. And those dreams feel better than waking up. But pride is louder than love sometimes. Fear screams louder than truth. And so he stays in his head, silent, distant, but aching. The texts he doesn't send, they say everything he can't. And if you only knew how many messages lived in his drafts, you'd never again question if he still thinks of you. He does. He just hopes you still think of him too. One day he watches all your stories, the next he disappears. 1 week he's liking your posts, replying with subtle emojis, dropping hints that make your heart race. Then suddenly, silence. Cold, calculated distance, like nothing ever happened. And you're left asking yourself, was I imagining it? Did I misread everything? No, you didn't. You're not crazy. You're dealing with a man who's emotionally torn, and the only way he knows how to navigate that confusion is through mixed signals. Mixed signals aren't a lack of interest, they're a lack of clarity. He feels something for you, maybe something deep, but he's also overwhelmed by the fear of what those feelings mean. So what does he do? He dips in just enough to feel connected, but not enough to be vulnerable. He pulls back the second he feels exposed, but not far enough to let you fully move on. It's a push and pull that has nothing to do with your worth, and everything to do with his emotional readiness. See, a man who's unsure of himself will always send confusing messages, not because he wants to hurt you, but because part of him wants you while another part isn't ready for what that means. So he breadcrumbs, he flirts just enough to stay on your radar. He backs off when it starts to feel too real. He'll say he's not ready, but still act jealous when you talk to someone else. He'll claim he doesn't know what he wants, but panic at the idea of losing you. That's not love, that's emotional limbo. And if you've been stuck in that space, trying to decode his silence, interpret his reactions, translate every word, it's because he's been using your heart as a safety net. He wants you close enough to soothe his doubts, but not close enough to confront his fears. The truth. When a man is sure about you, you won't have to decode anything. There will be no guessing, no chasing, no what does this mean? Text to your best friend at midnight. He'll be clear. He'll show up. He'll choose you, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's scary. So if you're sitting in confusion right now, wondering whether you're overthinking or if the signs are real, Ask yourself this: if his actions were the only truth, what would they be telling you? That answer is where your peace lives. Not in what he says, not in what he almost said, but in what he does consistently, when he thinks you're not watching. Mixed signals are already a signal. You just have to stop translating confusion and start listening to your own clarity. You stopped texting, you went quiet, you pulled your energy back not to punish him, but to protect yourself. And now you're wondering, is he even thinking about me? Or did no contact just make it easier for him to forget? The truth is, silence is powerful. And when you go silent, really silent, it echoes in ways that words never could. Especially to a man who once felt your warmth every day. At first he might feel relief, space, the pressure's gone. But then slowly, the absence creeps in. He starts noticing the things he once ignored. The way your energy used to calm him, the way your messages made him feel seen, the way your presence filled the empty parts of his day he didn't even realize existed. And now those parts are just quiet. That's when the overthinking begins. Is she moving on? Was she really done? Why isn't she reaching out? Did I mess this up for good? Men don't always process loss in the beginning. They process it when you stop being available, when they realize you're not just giving them space, but actually choosing yourself. That's when panic sets in, because now it's real. And here's what he won't tell anyone. He checks your profile more than he should. He scrolls through old messages just to feel something familiar. He watches your stories not just out of curiosity, but to see if you've truly let go. He even writes out messages and deletes them, unsure if he's allowed to reach out, unsure if he'd even care anymore. He doesn't admit this to his friends. He pretends he's fine. He acts like your silence doesn't matter, but it does. Because when someone was used to your heart being wide open, and then suddenly it isn't, the contrast is deafening. No contact isn't just about making someone miss you. It's about creating space for the truth to rise. And the truth is, if he really cared, he feels your absence like a pulse. And if he didn't, then your silence just confirmed what your soul already knew. He wasn't capable of showing up for the real you. So while you're sitting there wondering what's going through his mind, just know this: he's thinking about you, even if he pretends not to, even if he's with someone else, even if he hasn't said a word. Because when a woman like you disappears, not with drama, not with begging, but with grace and self-respect, it haunts a man in ways that linger far longer than words ever could. Love doesn't always come back with a grand gesture. Sometimes it tiptoes back in, quietly, cautiously, afraid of being too late. If he still loves you, chances are he won't say it directly, not at first. Instead, he'll test the waters. He'll show it in moments so small, you could almost miss them, unless you're paying attention. It might be the way he suddenly replies to your story with something meaningless, just to see if you'll engage. It might be a random message out of nowhere. Hey, this reminded me of you. It might be a song he posts, a quote he shares, a place he tags himself in, the kind of thing that's almost a message, but not quite. And here's why it's subtle. Because men who are still in love, but afraid of rejection, will try to feel your energy first before handing you their heart again. They won't say, "I miss you." They'll say, "Did you see that show we used to watch has a new season?" They won't ask, "Do you still love me?" They'll say, "I drove by your street today." It's never about the words, it's about the intent behind them. If he still loves you, he'll find ways to place himself in your orbit again. Not to manipulate, but because love, real love, doesn't vanish just because time passed or mistakes were made. It lingers, it aches, it whispers. You'll notice it in how he remembers the smallest details, in how protective his tone becomes, even when he has no right to care anymore, in how his eyes soften when your name comes up, in how he looks for signs that you might still feel something too. He might ask mutual friends about you. He might try to appear happy on social media, but somehow it feels forced. He might even try dating someone else, only to realize she doesn't calm the storm inside him the way you did. And maybe he won't be ready to admit it. Maybe his pride is still louder than his heart. But if he still loves you, he will show it, not with flowers or speeches, but in the little cracks of his armor, where the truth leaks out. It's in his hesitation, his timing, his sudden appearance on the days you are finally starting to feel okay. Because love that hasn't fully let go always finds a way to come close, just close enough to be felt, but not close enough to be vulnerable. So if you've been wondering whether it meant anything to him, if he still loves you, you won't need a confession. You'll feel it, and that feeling, it doesn't lie. You stare at your phone, you draft the message, you delete it, You wonder if reaching out would make you look desperate or brave. There's this heavy question on your chest. Should I say something? Should I break the silence? Should I make the first move again? The answer isn't simple, because it's not really about texting him. It's about what that text represents. Your heart still feels something, but you're tired of doing all the emotional labor. You're tired of showing up for someone who only meets you halfway, or not at all, and yet you still care. You're not weak for that. You're not foolish. You're human. There's a version of you that wants clarity, closure, a sign that all of this meant something, that you weren't the only one who felt it that deeply. And sometimes the silence gets so loud that reaching out feels like the only way to breathe again. But before you press send, ask yourself, are you reaching out because you miss him, or because you miss the version of yourself who felt loved when he was around? Because if it's just about filling the silence, soothing the ache, or pulling a reaction, then no, don't make the first move. You deserve more than a breadcrumb response. You deserve more than a heart that only beats when it's afraid of losing you. But if your heart is clear, if you're grounded in your worth, and if what you want isn't just a reply but an answer, then yes, reach out. Not to beg, not to chase, but to free yourself from the weight of the what if. Because sometimes power doesn't look like silence. Sometimes power is choosing to speak when your ego would rather hide. Sometimes it's letting someone know they mattered, not for their sake, but for yours. But remember this, making the first move doesn't mean abandoning your self-respect. It means showing up with truth and strength, and letting the response or the lack of one reveal everything you need to know. If he loves you, truly loves you, your message won't scare him. It will be the bridge he's been too afraid to build. But if he's indifferent, inconsistent, or emotionally unavailable, your silence will speak louder than anything you could ever send. So should you make the first move? Only if you're ready for the truth. Only if your heart can handle whatever comes next. Even if it's nothing at all. Because making the first move isn't about getting him back. It's about getting you back. And sometimes that's the bravest move of all. You've questioned it so many times. Was it real? Did he feel it too? Am I just overthinking a moment that only meant something to me? But here's the truth. No one tells you. Your heart doesn't lie. Your mind might spiral. Your logic might second guess. Your friends might tell you to forget it. But your soul, it knows. You felt something because something was there. The connection wasn't imagined. The energy wasn't one-sided. The way he looked at you, the way time stopped in certain moments, the way it hurt when he left, all of that was real. Just because he didn't say it out loud doesn't mean it wasn't true. Some people feel love deeply, but express it poorly. Some people recognize soul-level connections, but don't have the emotional capacity to hold on to them. Some people run, not because they don't care, but because caring shakes them to the core. And you're left with the weight of everything unspoken. So you wonder if you made it all up in your head, but you didn't. If you felt it, trust it. Not because it means you have to go back. Not because you should wait around for him to figure it out. But because you deserve to honor your own sensitivity, your depth, your ability to feel something real in a world that constantly tells us to numb out and move on. This wasn't about being wrong. It was about being awake. You saw the potential. You felt the bond. You held space where he couldn't. And that makes you strong, not foolish. So no, you don't need a message to confirm it. You don't need him to suddenly become everything he couldn't be. What you need is peace in knowing that you loved with integrity. Peace in knowing that what you felt was valid, even if it wasn't returned the way you hoped. Peace in knowing that just because someone couldn't meet you where you are doesn't mean your love was too much. It means they weren't ready, and that's not your burden to carry anymore. So if your heart still whispers his name, don't shame yourself for that. But don't hold yourself hostage to that echo either. You can remember him and still release him. You can cherish what was and still choose what's next. You can feel deeply and still walk away with your head high. Because the most powerful kind of healing comes when you finally say, I don't need them to say it back. I already know what I felt. And that's enough.